Okay, welcome everyone to today's episode of Tech Falcon. Welcome. So, in this lecture today, we're going to be looking into sass. And if you've been following this lecture from day one, you know we've installed sass, we've had it set up in our system. So today, now what we want to look into today is how we can make use of sass in our projects, how we can implement sass in our code. And before wasting much time, so we dive into it. And in the first lecture of sass, if you can remember very well, we created a file. We created this style.sass.css and style.sass file. If you haven't watched the video, you can go back to it and watch the video. And before I proceed, guys, please, if you haven't done your CSS class, please, you need to do that first before you do sass class. Before you can attend to sass class, you need to have the background knowledge of CSS. We already have a beginner's course on CSS in our website, so you can check the CSS side of the class and you can learn before coming to sass. So now, how can we now use sass in our project? How can we make use of sass in our project? Well, I'm using this one now. I'm running it using just normal HTML. But if you are using some advanced programming language, maybe like React, Vue, and other things, we're going to make a special video for that, how you can implement sass into your project using React or Vue. But for the sake of this class now, we're just going to run it as normal HTML method. So how can we do that now? We already have sass. Make sure you already have sass installed into your machine. And to do that now, make sure you are also directly in the root folder. Make sure you are directly in the root folder. And we're going to create some folders and we're going to create some files. And after that, we're going to link them together so that our sass code, our sass CSS code, will be able to communicate with all these files that is available here. Don't worry about this, guys. Don't worry about this style.css.map. I know we didn't create this one the last time. But when we run the code, if you do the same thing which I'm doing here, you're going to have the same result. So now, the first thing to do here now, we want to create another folder that is going to hold our sass code. And now I will create the source folder. I will call it sass components. You can call it anything you want. Sass component. And inside this sass component, I'll create another folder and I'll call it base. I'll create another folder and I'll call it layout. I'll call it layout. You can create more. I think I've make a little mistake here, so I should have created it directly inside the sass component. So I will do that again. Call it layout. Okay, good. So now we have a base folder and we have a layout folder inside the sass component folder. So inside my base folder now, I want to create two files. I can create more, but for the sake of this class, let's create just two files. And this one, I'll call it base_dr.sass. dr means directory. So, and I will explain to you why I use this name, why I use that name. I will explain to you. But let's create another one. Call this one base.sass. And I will do the same thing inside the layout. I'll create another file, call it layout_dir, which stands for directory.sass. And I will create another folder again. I'll call it just layout.sass. Okay, now why do I create this file and why do I create this file? This is base, this one also is base. Okay, the reason why I created this file is, as time goes on, we can have more than one file here, and when we have more than one file here, we don't want to link everything directly themselves to our style file.sass. We just want to have them stored in one particular file so that we only link that file directly to our sass. This will help us to keep our code clean and help us to organize our files and our work very well. So now we've done this now. We've done this. No, so let's move on to the next stage. So the next stage is to link this file to this file. And how can we do that? We use @import, and the import is going to be the file name. What's the file name? We say base. And when you are doing this, you don't need to use the .sass. You don't need to use the .sass. The system understands what you are trying to do. So we move on to the layout. We run the same thing again @import. We run the @import, and we say layout. We set layout as a spelling error. Say layout. Make sure the spelling match each other. Okay, now don't put a comma, don't put a semicolon, don't put anything. You don't need anything at the back. So now we've connected this file to this file. So now the next thing to do now is to connect this file, this one here and this one here, to our sass. So now let's move on to the sass main file. So now after that, we're going to run @import. Now this time around we need the file path this is directory. After that we need base, and after that we import this. Don't put a comma or a semicolon, just do it like that. So the next one is we want to import the layout @import file path, which is sass component /layout dir. So now with this, now we've imported our sass into here, so everything can communicate with each other. So we have nothing to do here again, guys. So we are done with that one, done with this, and we are done with this. So we are not going to use this layout.sass in this lecture. The only thing we're going to use is our base.sass. So but before we do that, because we are using a normal HTML, there's no root directory or route that's going to collate everything. So meaning that in each of our folders or our files, we need to import the CSS. This is what we are importing. We are not importing this. We are importing this one into our folder, and anything we do in any of this folder that is related to our document will definitely affect it. So now let's do that. So to do that, now we use a link tag. We use a link, and in this link we're going to call our href. Okay, rare, call a rare, call it a style sheet. Let's call it a style sheet. And the next thing we're going to run again, we're going to run our href, and it's in that href we're going to call our CSS. So this is the file we are calling here, and after that we close the tag. And now we have nothing to do here. Let's just go back to our base.sass. So we have, how many tags do we have here? We have two tags here. We have the h1 and we have the p tag. So in this h1 and p tag, first of all, let's load it in the browser. Let's see how it behaves in our browser before we do anything. This is how it is in our browser here. So now let's apply some sass CSS to it. And now, so let's call it first of all h1. After calling the h1, we said let the color be red. no, and let the background color, be something like green. Okay, good. So now we've done this, and one thing you need to note again is when you are writing a sass code, after writing the code, there's no need of putting a semicolon at the back of any of your elements or your selector. In sass, there's no need for that. So in the p tag now, let's change the color also. Let's say color should be white. And let's say background color should be something like red. Now we've done this, and the next thing I want us to do again is, if you remember very well, in the last session, after we added our CSS to our code and we imported the sass and we set it up, there's a code we run again, which I mentioned very well. I said it's going to be the one to watch over our sass, just in case if there's any changes that happen in our code, it will be the one to check it up and update that for us automatically without refreshing our page manually. And to do that, make sure you are directly in your root folder. I will say sass space -- watch, the name of the sass file and the name of the CSS file, and after that we click on enter, and after clicking on enter, it's going to be watching it for us. And now if we come back to our style.css file, now we see that this code that we have here will be here. Now here we are. We didn't write them here, we only wrote them inside our file here, but now it's directly inside here. And don't forget that we already linked this file to this particular file. So if you go back to our browser now, we should have a result. So now we have a result. So guys, thank you. That is how you make use of sass. That's how you organize your sass. And in the next video, I will explain to you guys why I use base and why I use layout as my folder's name. So there's a reason for that. I didn't just use it by mistake. There's a main reason for that, and I will explain it in the next video. Thank you guys for your time. See you in the next video.